For joining us tonight. In their first round of budget talks for the upcoming year, the Smith County Commissioners Court clashed with a county constable. Precinct 4 Constable Josh Joplin came to the court hoping to get a pay raise for deputy constables, claiming he was representing all county constables. But the court argued he was comparing apples to oranges.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners.
Constable Joplin was among the many department heads who made a case to county commissioners in their first budget workshop of the year. His request, a pay raise for all deputy constables.
Well, I represent an office of employees that, serve the county, and those employees, discovered that there was a discrepancy in salary differences from what a deputy at the sheriff's office that does what we do makes compared to what my deputies make here. There's a $13,000 difference.
But the county judge and commissioners were quick to point out what they considered an unfair comparison, arguing a deputy sheriff's job is much different than that of a deputy constable.
I actually worked at the sheriff's office. I was in charge of communications, so I'm fully aware of what a sheriff's office does and what a constable's office does. I'm not sure you are. I perceive that you think you have a little sheriff's office.
Joplin and the court have previously gone back and forth over the duties of a constable, with the court pointing out constables by statute only have to serve papers. But Joplin argues the oath and badge make a constable's job no different than other law enforcement officers.
At the end of the day, my staff and I have to maintain the same training. My staff and I have to do the same job. When people call on us for criminal matters, we're responsible for taking care of those people. That's why they elect us. That's why we're here.
Ahead of his presentation, Joplin told commissioners he was speaking on behalf of all Smith County constables, a statement questioned by the court. Constables Wayne Allen, Ralph Caraway Jr., and Wesley Hicks told KLTV while they did discuss salaries with Joplin, they were unaware of his presentation and were in no way part of it.
We want to do a true salary study. So oftentimes salary studies just include, they just match the population and think it's the same, and it's just not.
In court, County Judge Neil Franklin pointed out while the county requested departments submit their presentations prior to the meeting, Joplin did not.
It's not as much being caught off guard. I like to review in case there might be a discrepancy, and so it eliminates any kind of back and forth during the agenda.
Everyone turns their presentation in advance so that we all are on the same page. And pretty much everybody did that except for one. And that, I think, puts everybody at a disadvantage because you don't have any opportunity to review the request or see what needs to be done about what they're asking for.
Now, Constable Joplin did offer salary comparisons for deputy constables in counties of similar size, pointing out a $7,000 to $10,000 difference annually. County Judge Neil Franklin says it's not that simple. The county does plan to give all county employees a 5% cost of living increase. Constable Joplin says he plans on asking the county to give his raise to his deputies.